ओम नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुखद स्वरूपाय स्वामी नेतापहारिणे. Welcome to Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. In the previous chapter, we saw Swamiji talked about the secret of work. In this fourth chapter, Swamiji discusses what is duty. Swamiji starts the topic with the importance of duty in the study of Karma Yoga. He says, it is necessary in the study of Karma Yoga to know what duty is. If I have to do something, I must first know that it is my duty, and then I can do it. Then Swamiji shows how objective definition of duty varies according to time, place, traditions, religion, etc. He says the term duty, like every other universal abstract term, is impossible to define clearly. We can only get an idea of it by knowing its practical operations and results. Then he explains any action that makes us go Godward is a good action and is our duty. Any action that makes us go downward is evil and is not our duty. He says, therefore we see that it is not the thing done that defines duty. To give an objective definition of duty is thus entirely impossible. But there is duty from the subjective side. Any action that makes us go Godward is a good action and is our duty. Any action that makes us go downward is evil and is not our duty. From the subjective standpoint, we may see that certain acts have a tendency to exalt and ennoble us, while certain other acts have a tendency to degrade and brutalize us. But it is not possible to make out with certainty which acts have which kind of tendency in relation to all persons of all sorts of and conditions. There is, however, only one idea of duty which has been universally accepted by all mankind of all ages and sects and countries, and that has been summed up in a Sanskrit aphorism thus: do not injure any being. Not injuring any being is the virtue, and injuring any being is sin. Because Swamiji explains that the duty is defined subjectively. Anything that takes us towards our real nature is our duty. Anything that takes us away from our real nature is not our duty. Apart from the universally accepted duty of non-injury to any being, the other relative duty depends on the birth and position in life and society. We see generally in the world human beings quickly judge others based on their ideas of duty, morality, good conduct, costume, customs, etc. Swamiji gives his own example while in US. When Swamiji was in Chicago and Boston and other places, people used to sometimes stare at him, jeer at him, or even throw objects at him because he used to dress differently from others. He had wearing the saffron dress while he was not wearing this suit and tie. So, and he also, his color of the skin was different. So people used to judge him according to his costume. A human being should not be judged by the nature of his duty, but by the manner and spirit in which he performs it. Swamiji says, when we begin to work earnestly in the world, nature gives us blows right and left, and soon enables us to find out our position. No man can long occupy satisfactorily a position for which he is not fit. There is no use in grumbling against nature's adjustment. He who does the lower work is not therefore a lower man. No man is to be judged by the mere nature of his duties, but all should be judged by the manner and the spirit in which they perform them. Duty done properly leads to higher stages like work as worship and further work for work's sake. Initially, when the duty is done, because it has to be done, there is no freedom, it's sort of slavery. But when done with the spirit that this has to be done, slowly the mind becomes pure, and then higher attitudes towards duty or towards work can be taken as worship to the divine or the witness attitude. The philosophy behind Karma Yoga is the same as the other yogas. That is, Swamiji says, the object being the attenuating of the lower self, so that the real higher self may shine forth. The lessening of the frittering away of energies on the lower plane of existence, so that the soul may manifest itself on the higher ones. We see generally that duty is seldom sweet. It is felt like a burden. Unless until there is a love which greases the wheels of duty, it is rather very tough to perform. It's not a smooth functioning. When there is a love, suppose like mother's love for her children makes her duty sweet. She doesn't feel the burden of the work. And duty requires continuous denial of lower desires, which helps manifest our higher self. When you are doing any work, do not think of anything beyond. Just focus on that work. Do it as a worship, as the highest worship, and devote your whole life to it for the time being. That is the best way to perform the work. That is the best way to do the duty. The only way to rise spiritually is by doing the duty next to us, that is currently that is available to us, and thus gathering strength to go on until we reach the highest state. Swamiji says the position of the mother is the highest in the world, as it is the one place in which to learn and exercise the greatest unselfishness. The love of God is the only love that is higher than a mother's love. All others are lower. It is the duty of the mother to think of her children first and then of herself. But instead of that, if the parents are always thinking of themselves first, and the result is that the relation between parents and children becomes the same as that between birds and their offsprings, which as soon as they are fledged do not recognize any parents. Blessed indeed is the man who is able to look upon woman as the representative of the motherhood of God. Blessed indeed is the woman to whom man represents the fatherhood of God. Blessed are the children who look upon their parents as divinity manifested on earth. The only way to rise is by doing the duty next to us, and thus gathering strength, go on until we reach the highest state. Then Swamiji narrates the story from Mahabharata, the story of Vyadha Gita, wherein it is shown that how if duty done cheerfully, wholeheartedly and without attachment, then it leads to highest perfection of the soul. In the story, the ascetic sannyasi, the monk, is guided towards higher spiritual progress by a housewife who does her duty with cheerfulness and selflessly. She is shown to be higher spiritually than the monk, and she guides the monk further to a butcher who, though a householder and performing the work of butcher, has evolved spiritually by performing duty unselfishly. Then Swamiji also talks about Pavahari Baba, the great saint whom Swamiji met during his wandering days in India. When Swamiji asked the saint about instruction, the saint gave following great instruction: let the end and the means be joined into one. That is, be totally focused on the job at hand, duty at hand, that is the means, then the end is bound to come. Swamiji concludes the topic by saying, it is the worker who is attached to results that grumbles about the nature of the duty which has fallen to his lot. To the unattached worker, all duties are equally good and form efficient instruments with which selfishness and sensuality may be killed and the freedom of the soul secured. We are all apt to think too highly of ourselves. Our duties are determined by our deserts to a much larger extent than we are willing to grant. Competition rouses envy and it kills the kindness of the heart. Let us work on doing as we go whatever happens to be our duty, and being ever ready to put our shoulders to the wheel. Then surely shall we see the light. So in this brief discussion on what is duty, Swamiji highlights that objective definition of duty is difficult, but there is something called subjective definition of duty. That is, anything that takes us towards God, our real self, is our duty, and anything that takes us away from God is not our duty. Next chapter, Swamiji will take up the topic, we help ourselves, not the world. Om Tat Sat.